shit splat. Stop, let this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. Get your lick back. If a nigga owe you something, ain't no chit chat. Better stay up out the way, don't get your shit splat. Stop, let this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. I feel like I'm JX.
J-Way.
I'm a perfectionist. Adderall got me restless.
I'm gone.
Run with a wild crew, they get reckless. Young boy, come up off that neck.
Give me
We
that.
to the trends. See a lead, be the band.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Corner to Copa. I'm here with my co-host, Coach. It's been a little bit, man, but you know, the holidays are past and it's time to get back to it. How you feeling, my boy?
Man, just the first holiday of the set here. Man, winter's just kicking in if you're not here in Michigan, shoveling and salting already as we get near the end of November. But yeah, a couple weeks off to level set, kind of break away and look at this team from afar as some of the rumors and speculations continue to swirl as we near winter general managers meetings here. But man, you know, we've had some the last couple of days and a week. It's been picking up traction here, and it feels like we're about to kick off the big leg or first big leg of free agency soon. It's just a matter of which domino will be first to fall and what the numbers will reveal.
Yeah, so you know, the things as far as free agency is kind of picked up around the league. The Tigers haven't had any major stuff, just some minor things that we're going to talk about. But let's first and foremost talk about the players that have avoided arbitration and have agreed for deals for the 2026 season. We have Beau Brieske, Matt Vierling, Jake Rogers. And the player that they did not extend an offer to was Andy Ibanez. Now, on my side, I'm not surprised that we kind of talked about Andy Ibanez probably being at the end of the road in Detroit. I was kind of up in the air about Jake Rogers, but I'm cool. I'm decent with it now. But any surprise there? I know we had some talks offline about Matt Vierling. Do you agree with bringing him back initially?
Well, I mean, it's come from a spend standpoint. You know, you've got these guys that are going to be cheap for the next year or two, whatever they got left, and it's house money considering that guys like, you know, Vierling was not someone that we drafted. We got him in a trade originally, or came over from the Phillies at least. You know, so these aren't really heritage guys per se compared to like a Job or, you know, guys like that. So it's interesting to see. But if you look at the market right now, and I know there's a shopping list, right, of what we want and what we need. But right now, it doesn't look like the depth positions of need for us where we could improve the most is really in our benefit. So fewer players in those key positions means they should be more expensive. But, you know, does he deserve a spot? I think Vierling could be a guy that falls into that category, especially being hurt almost all of last year. Good locker room guy, but, you know, we'll see. I think if there's a need in another team that he can get some more regular playing time, I think that could maybe be a situation that better suits him more long-term for whatever control he has left at that point in time in his career.
Yeah, personally, I mean, I think that one of the reasons why he's kind of essential is the fact that he does play center field, and there's not 100% belief in Parker Meadows at this point. So he's a guy that can play all over the outfield. He's going to provide that speed. And this was a 3-WAR player, not last year, obviously, but the year before last. So, I mean, that's pretty solid for a guy that's quote unquote a fourth outfielder. So, if he can, because he was a 1.5 WAR player and then he improved to 3. So if he can continue to ascend, even though he is getting up there in age, not really getting up there in age, but if he can get back to being a 3 WAR player, I think that he can be a valuable asset. Now another person, Beau Brieske, pretty much he was hurt all of last year. He was a high leverage, pitcher 2 years ago. So he kind of got a free, that was kind of his first 2024 was kind of his first year on the scene, but I think that it's possible. He hasn't hit the end of the road as far as guys that, you know, I don't, you know, that we don't believe in, I guess. So the Jake Rogers one was interesting, especially with you know, having a couple catchers coming up the ranks, but you know, it's probably not time yet to. I think I was kind of indifferent about that, but I get it. They brought back Tomas Nido, so that's an option. You got a couple guys that were protected in the Rule 5 draft, which we'll talk about next. But any reservations with bringing Jake Rogers back after a pretty bad year?
Same kind of thing. I think if we get a guy of his years of service or even age in baseball right now, it's going to be more expensive. And I think the bigger draw is the fact that you still have Skubal on the roster. And obviously, if it comes down between the two, I think Skubal's been fairly clear going back to the beginning of the year before last was that Jake's his guy. You know what I mean? Originally, it was going to be Jake was going to catch Skubal. Remember when he first got hurt last year? Oh, well, you know, the chemistry with Skubal and Rogers is there. That's his guy. You know, for those of you that are old enough, probably at least 30 or older, to have seen movie with Kevin Costner about pitching as a Tiger and whatnot. That was his guy, his backstop. You know, I want him back there. You know, Skubal has commanded that kind of respect over the last few years, being as down as he is to ask for a certain type of catcher back there. But, you know, hey, you've got Rogers and Dingler, and I think it benefits Dingler long term. Again, it's the same situation. If there's an opportunity with another team that comes a knocking and Jake looks like, hey, I can play more, I think that is something they could look at. But I think he stays almost no matter what through next year, just given the amount of time he has left. He will be a free agent after the 2027 season. So no rush to cut him right now. But to your point, with those two other guys that we've alluded to about the Rule 5, there is some flexibility there for other options to happen through next year.
And a couple other guys that were not extended offers, Alex Lang and Foley. To me, I kind of see it as I like the fact that we are going to be we're not trying to recycle the same guys. You know, it's time to move forward, spend some money, whatever the case may be. I see it as a strength that we're not trying to hold on to some of the, you know, the older guys from 03 and 04, Foley and Alex Lang. Now, Lang got picked up real fast, and he's going to be in the Central Division. I had the opportunity to watch him play when he finally got back from that injury. But do you think that we gave up on those two guys too soon?
I mean, I think it bodes to say something they found or didn't like when he first came back briefly for maybe a week, a couple outings. That was it. And then he was gone for the rest of the year. He was hurt, right? I don't know if he was hurt or what, but I think something else was going on there that they opted not to make too public or public enough outside of the immediate, you know, relationship between the player and the team. But it's not like Kansas City paid him a boatload of money. It was a 1-year deal for a couple $1 million. So it was a low risk opportunity for him. And I'm sure, you know, hey, it's a guaranteed major league contract. So, you know, maybe I don't think he was making a couple million for sure beforehand, but I think it's some reassurance and stability for him to prove that he can overcome the hiccup that was 2025 in Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Lang is a guy that had, you know, he had amazing stuff. He could get swing and misses, but control and command was always his issue. He always, you know, flashed a high ceiling, but the injuries and inability to control is really what was his downfall. So I don't know. It's something that could possibly, if he could figure it all out, you know, it would be an interesting situation for him to kind of get his get back. But I think it was time to move forward. We got guys like, you know, what was I going to say? we got guys like Finnegan that we can focus on, possibly going out and getting a Devin Williams. It made him kind of expendable. So it is what it is. But we talked about it on the last show as far as Gleyber Torres. I said, I don't know. He had a bad second half. 22 million sounds pretty appealing, and it seemed like he was comfortable and happy where he was at. He was an all-star last year. Maybe he takes that 22 million and takes his chances the next year with maybe a more healthy year. And sure enough, he agreed to opt into that $22 million deal. Thoughts on that, and how do you see that playing out? Just kind of weigh out the pros and cons of bringing back Gleyber Torres.
Well, that's kind of the weird thing. I feel like we didn't think that he was going to take it, but based on everything else, what some of the GMs allegedly reported, some of these experts that have been leaking some of this information, was that he was going to get like 4 years, 12 million AAV, something like that, which was way less than what not only what was on the tender offer, but even what we paid him in general just last year. And I think he saw that and was like, why would I play 4 years for 6, 7, 8 million more versus just taking the 1 year tender offer and getting that 22.5 and then worrying about it after that. So I do think it was a matter of financial security, and he's struggled down the stretch. I know we know with injury and whatnot too, and just not being able to be the same guy that he was in the first 3.5 months of the year. But they're kind of stuck now with the same situation as they had last year. Now we're right back to square one, thinking, okay, well, we're going to sign someone at third base or not? Because it's limits, I think, in our flexibility in terms of shortstop, third base too.
Yeah, I mean, here's the pros and cons of it. As far as pros, he increases our floor. Like, maybe it limits us in the sense that that's one less position that Magano can play, and yeah, it limits one position that Magano can play. He now accounts for the 22 million on our sheet, but I think still you kind of know what you're going to get from him. He's a righty bat at the top of the lineup that's going to get on base. He's a good contact guy, and we need that direly. And we were going to have to go find that. We were going to have to go, seek out somebody that we didn't know what we were getting from him. For the most part, there weren't many gripes with him outside of the fact that he's a slow base runner and he was not good down the stretch. But other than that, he was a top guy at the beginning of our lineup. We had no leadoff hitter the entire season. He was essentially our leadoff hitter. He wasn't stealing any bases, and he wasn't a threat to go first or third or second to home, but he did provide some stability. So if he can stay healthy, I think it's a win-win situation. He can get his extension somewhere. Maybe he tears it up and hits 25 home runs for us. I mean, I'm not banking on that, but I think that push come to shove, McGonigal can play third. He can play shortstop. You can, we'll talk about some of the guys that we can expand our roster with, by getting rid of. But I think it was a good thing. I think that the overall climate was that, yes, it takes away some money that we could be spending elsewhere, but we know what we're getting from him. He was solid on all grounds last year. So yeah, that's enough about Gleyber Torres. Let's get to the first break and then talk some more. Okay, so let's briefly talk about the Rule 5 protections. I believe that's coming up in the Rule 5 draft is coming up in the beginning of December, and basically how it works is after a certain amount of years of served time, players that haven't been added to the 40-man roster are eligible for the Rule 5 draft, which they would can be selected by anybody, and they could be selected by any other team, and as long as they remain on the 40-man roster for the entire year, that player is gone from the Tigers forever, essentially. So I think they pretty much covered all bases and protected everybody that would be possibly selected by other that could be selected by other teams. And so the list is Thayron Lorenzo, Hyu Lee, Andrew Miller, Eduardo Valencia, which for the life of me, I was like, if they allow this guy to be selected, I was going to be up in arms. And then lastly, Trey Cruz, who is a utility guy. I think he mostly plays center field, but he has the capability. He's kind of like Wenceel Perez in the sense that he started in the infield and he's now in the outfield, but he's able to play all over. So pretty interesting. You got your utility. You got a couple guys. You got Hyu Lee, who's pretty much can play all over the infield. Shortstop, third base. He's been playing mostly third base last year, which is interesting in itself to think about. Andrew Miller, who I think is at the Lakeland level, but he's had some injuries that's prevented him from kind of moving his way up in the through the ranks. He's one of the few pitching prospects that have any promise right now. And then Thayron Lorenzo, another first base / catcher / DH prospect. He was a part of the original Jack Flaherty deal. Any thoughts on the selections? Does it jump out at you as far as does any of it jump out at you?
Yeah, the Miller one is the only one I don't have any background on. Jake Miller. Yeah, this is the other kid. He's not even on their formal website yet, under the team's website for ESPN. But yeah, all the other players that you had highlighted beforehand made the list pretty much. And we had one addition by subtraction with Rafael Iglesias signing back with Atlanta, then created another spot open on the roster, even though he was technically coming off the book as a free agent rental. So that leaves us with one open roster spot at this time. I think for once
we have Soriano though, or no, not Soriano. We have who do we have? Iglesias was always with Atlanta.
No. We Montero, the other Montero that we acquired from Atlanta.
He went back to Atlanta.
Yeah, no, they were both on my list at the trade deadline. No, he re-signed with them. I'm not sure what the other Montero is doing as of yet. I don't think he signed, but essentially he's not coming back. So it leaves one open roster spot as of the moment. But Trey Cruz was a name that I didn't really have any pulse on. So that's interesting heading in to the year, considering his position being labeled as a center fielder, but to your point, has flexibility elsewhere as a util guy. So we'll see. They're at 39 out of 40 right now. So was there a name that you thought maybe they had a chance to cover that you didn't think beforehand that will go and get selected?
No, actually, I don't know who is technically eligible. I knew Valencia definitely was because he got drafted way back in 2018. But yeah, I don't think there's too much out there as far as guys that are now available. There was one report that Isaac Pacheco got protected, so it makes me wonder whether or not he is now exposed to the Rule 5 draft. Trey Cruz is actually, I think he's got some lineage as far as people within the family members that have once played baseball. I think he went from Erie to AAA this year, and I think they just like his. I think he's kind of improved his power a little bit, but I think they like his versatility and ability to to play a couple of different positions. He was kind of under the radar though. He was one of the ones that jump out at me like, oh, okay. I also didn't know that Lorenzo was eligible, so I'm glad that I think that ultimately we're going to find that there's no room for him unless he truly is a catcher prospect, because we still have Briseño, we still have Will Rogers is still here, Tomas Nido's still here, which I think he's just an insurance guy, but we're kind of stacked at that first base catcher position. So I think somebody is going to have to go when it's all said and done. But we might as well get into it. As far as guys, we're at 39 right now, and we haven't signed any free agents at this point. So are there any people that you think are on the bubble that we could possibly dump at some point to make room for the eventual free agent?
Yeah, that's interesting. There's a couple different avenues, and I think we kind of circle back to some of the same players that we either acquired at the deadline in 2025 or 2024 and off season, heading into this off season based on what they do. Honestly, in my eyes, if they go third base, shortstop in any way, shape, or form, trade or signing, I think the immediate think of going out would be depending on it, it's going to be some type of Sweeney or Jace Jung combination going out. To your point about Vierling, he still has a little bit more security blanket coverage, again, with the uncertainty of center field and how many center fielders we did use last year as a whole, and his ability to play other positions as well holds a little bit more value. So I think those two guys are the first targets out. In a weirder outside the box move, if they think that Colt can't improve defensively and he's kind of ceilinged himself from an offensive standpoint, I think they could still get something decently back for him, considering 3 year. I think 3 years left at $5 million, $6 million a year, whatever they gave him, is still a very attractive terms for any other ball club that may be in need of a permanent second baseman. To kind of fast track McGonigal again, where's he going to play if he goes to third? Jace Jung, I think, ultimately is done. He's cooked. There's no shot for him going forward, really anywhere in the organization. So we'll see. I think what they do on the left side of the infield will determine the answer for McGonigal and anyone else on the team. But those are it. And if they go weird, even weirder, Jake Rogers would be the only other one I could think of going out. But that's kind of really, wild outside the box. Nothing imminent per se.
Yeah, I think that the biggest indication for me is that when they protect Hyu Lee and they protected Trey Cruz. So I think that it makes Young expendable. I think he's a guy that performs very well at the AAA level. So he's somebody that could have value that they could possibly think that they could pull, some more talent out of him at the major league level, to where, you got a couple guys, and you got Max Anderson as well, who's coming up the ranks as a possible third base option. So you got areas like a Colt Keith has proven that he can play at the major league level. So I think that you could get something for him. You could get something for Malloy possibly. So yeah, I think that adding a couple infielders to the Rule 5 roster creates opportunities to move a Colt or a Jace Jung, but we will see about that. Let's get to news around the league. What moves have been made? I think you wanted to talk about some of the managerial moves.
Yeah, we can start with the signings, the trades. We can do it all. We won't spend too much time here. A lot of this stuff has happened over the last few days or the past week. So some of this is a little more fresh. So in terms of signings, I think Boston probably so far in more recent few days takes the cake with the announcement of signing Dylan Cease to a big 7-year, $210 million deal, $30 million a year. Dylan's not too far off from Scooble's age, so I think that's a very interesting dynamic to keep an eye on going in from now and through next year, whenever Scooble does get his extension from whomever it is. But yeah, big commitment there from Boston. Now they have a couple of former Cy Young candidates in Dylan Cease and Garrett Crochet now to lead that rotation to next year. Baltimore signed closer Ryan Helsley after a tumultuous year in New York with the Mets. I know he was on your radar as well, potentially for guys for high leverage for Detroit. The Cubs signed relief pitcher Phil Maton to a 2-year deal with a 3rd-year option. Atlanta signed Rafael Iglesias to a 1-year deal. Seattle, this was about 2 weeks ago, 5 years for Josh Naylor to bring him back after they got him in the trade originally from the Guardians. Toronto as a trade got Sonny Gray just the other day in a 4-player total trade. Interesting considering Sonny Gray refused his no trade clause movement last year. This year was offseason completely different. I think he just wanted the hell out of there. Given his age, he wants to win, and St. Louis is more in a rebuild, so that makes sense for both of those parties. The Mets and the Rangers last week exchanged star players. Brandon Nimmo headed with cash to Texas for second base. All-star Marcus Semien. Baltimore also traded outfielder Taylor Ward to the Angels for right-hand pitcher Grayson Rodriguez to stabilize their rotation. Tampa acquired an outfielder Everson Pereira, starting pitcher Yandris Gomez, and 2 other players in the White Sox for relief pitcher Steven Wilson, 4 total players going in there. And Atlanta acquiring infielder, outfielder, util Mauricio Dubon from Houston for shortstop Nick Allen. Briefly, managerials. We had a lot of managers finding new homes this year. Padres, Craig Stamen for Mike Schilt. Giants hire, this is a first, Tennessee head coach, University of Tennessee, Tony Vitello, who has no prior major league experience at all whatsoever, replacing Bob Melvin. Baltimore hiring Craig Alvernaz, replacing terminated Brandon Hyde and interim Tony Masalino. The Angels hired Kurt Suzuki with also no previous managerial experience or assistant managerial experience at all, but obviously a former longtime Angel, and Oakland Athletic, replacing medically departed Ron Washington, not departed from this earth, just not managing. Minnesota hiring former Pirates manager, I believe, Derek Shelton, who replaced Rocco Baldelli. Washington hired Blake Butera, former Major League player himself, replacing Dave Martinez and Miguel Cairo, who was interim. Atlanta hiring Walt Weiss, who was a bench coach, also previously a manager of Colorado, and Texas, who way back ago brought in Skip Schumacher, who was previously in their front office role and previously the manager of the Marlins. Lastly, sorry but not least, Colorado hired Warren Schaefer. No idea who he is, but he was the interim after they terminated Bud Black, going 7 for 33 to start the tumultuous 2025 campaign for the Rockies. That's it in terms of high level from signs, trades, and managerial announcements.
So as far as the transactions, the Mets trade with the Rangers, Gray to Boston, Ward for Rodriguez. I would have loved to have Taylor Ward. That would have been a cool one. Dylan Cease signing to Toronto. You said what?
He was interesting because people thought Baltimore was gonna get fleeced for him, basically.
Well, they feel like some people, because Rodriguez missed all of last year, so that's the only selling point. But Rodriguez has a lot of years of control. Ward's essentially a rental. Granted, he's basically an all-star caliber corner outfielder, and he's a little bit older. But some people feel that they should have hung on to Rodriguez, but they've kind of been active. They immediately went out and signed Helsley as well, which I guess he's going to be they kind of squashed the starter thing, and he's going to be a high leverage reliever still. But yeah, they obviously they went out and signed Tyler O'Neill, who they're going to have to find room for, even though he was hurt all of last year. But it seems like Baltimore is trying to make some moves right now. But out of those, what do you think is the most impactful? Because that's a lot of, you got Boston, you got the Orioles, and then you also got Dylan Cease. Those are all American League teams. What do you think is the most impactful as far as moving forward and making that move to be a obviously the Blue Jays went to the World Series last year, but what do you think is the most impactful move thus far between all of those early transactions?
In terms of the actual transaction itself, I mean, it's hard to say that it's not Boston and Dylan Cease, considering who they already have and what they did throughout the season this past year in dealing Devers to San Francisco. It really freed up a lot of money for them. And now with the, Alex Bregman 2.0 courting, if you will, they have more money available now to make a legitimate run at New York and Toronto, which is crazy to your point about Baltimore, considering, 2 years ago, they were one of the new hot teams along with us, and they've kind of fizzled out. And for the last 6 months, all it's been out of there, where's Adley Rutschman going? Where are they going to trade him? Are they done with him? This guy was just an all-star, 2 years ago at switch hitting in the home run derby contest? There's still, I think, a decent amount that he can contribute. So maybe with these signings, they hang on to him and say, man, maybe we'll see what happens, if not. But AL East, man, they're making some power moves early. Kind of makes you nervous because, we've kind of needed help the last 2 years winning the division. So we'd like to see some level of significant signings or trade this offseason to say, hey, we might spend $300 million, but we're at least not being stagnant.
So I have two questions. One thing, with the amount of money that Dylan Cease is getting paid, is did it jump out to you at okay, if this is what he's going to get, what the hell is Skubal going to get? That's one. And two, does this change your thoughts on whether or not they'll still go after Bo Bichette?
Ooh, I'm going to go right to your second part first. I think it doesn't really have any impact. I think they're still in line to Detroit, at least, is in a position to maybe lure him away. But, we noted near the end of our first couple offseason shows that Bichette's attitude around the club has started to change because he wanted out earlier. It was not pretty. He got hurt, but I still think we're a top 5 location for him. It's just a matter of maybe preference that we don't know. But no, but to your first point, I think in terms of AAV, there's no way he's getting less than $40 million. That is Skubal for an extension. And at 7 years, I think I could be wrong,
He's got
but
30, right?
I just want to see what Dylan Cease's age is, because at the time next year, 29. Actually, he'll be 30 in next month. So a year older, a year and change older than Skubal. So in terms of years, I don't see why another team wouldn't give him 7, but it would have come down to are you going to give him 40 or more? That I could see maybe dropping down to 6. But either way, in terms of years or AAV, I don't see Detroit matching that. Either number, honestly.
Yeah. Dang, what was I gonna say? Let's get to a break real quick. Well, this is only our second break, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to a break. All right, so I didn't have a lot of as far as potential free agency type stuff, but one thing that's been quiet that has interested me is I feel like no one's talking about Eugenio Suarez. Now I don't know I don't know if what am I sharing? I think I messed that up.
You think that would make it more affordable for us, right? Potentially.
Yes. Wait, hold on. Yes. I mean, yeah. So I'm having.
No worries. Just in general, usually I feel like when a player's not as hotly talked about, their value tends to drop a bit. but that's purely speculative. But feels like there's some decent connection to that when it comes to free agency in pro sports.
That's what I want. That one. I'll work it with a different. I don't have to do all this. Okay, so I wanted so it's been kind of quiet about him. He had a slow. He hit some home runs, but he didn't. But Suarez did not. Hit for a good average. He was under 200. I think he had a decent postseason, but there just doesn't seem to be a lot of hype behind him, even though he hit 40 home runs last year. He was, rumored to possibly being headed to possibly head back to Detroit for a little bit. He ended up going to Seattle. They did what they did. They beat us, so they kind of went out and all that. So when I look at the potential landing spots for him. And the money doesn't seem too crazy. I think one of them was like 3 years, $54 million. That's not a bad investment at all. He's older, but he's a power righty bat, not a good defensive player, and he's not a heavy contact guy. He strikes out a lot, which is something the Tigers don't need. But we could use 40 home runs in our lineup, especially when he had the best year since his top year back in 2019 in Cincinnati or whatever. So he's a guy that seems to not be trending down as of yet. Now, when I look at the teams that are potentially good landing spots, you got the Pittsburgh Pirates, who I don't see where we can't outbid whatever he would want. Mind you, he said that he was open to returning to Detroit, and it's an opportunity for him to win. So you got the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have one of the worst lineups in all of baseball. And then you got the Cincinnati Reds, who currently have a Gold Glover in Ke'Bryan Hayes. But once again, you should be able to outbid them. There's not too much that Cincinnati can offer him. It's not too much that Cincinnati can offer him, except for maybe, they did go to the playoffs last year. So they can say, hey, we got some good pitchers. All we need is a bat. We have he's familiar with Cincinnati. He played in Cincinnati, but they obviously have they play in a freaking, whatever you want to call it, in a very hitter-friendly ballpark. So, but yeah, outside of that, unless he wants to return to Seattle, which I think is a possibility, that you see what happened with Naylor. Naylor was the first big name off the board. Any reservations or any reason why we wouldn't be able to outbid those teams unless there's some bigger team out there that I'm not aware of. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like other major market clubs that are looking to improve, I think, look at that, postseason decline and say, maybe it's not worth more than a 1-year deal. And if that's the case, I think Suarez is probably like, man, I'm worth 2 or 3. Like, I'm not going to take 1 off
last year.
Yeah. And I'll say, it kind of started when we plunked him in that last week of the trade deadline when he came to Detroit in the game that we went to. Bro got hit and we're like, oh no.
That was terrible.
It's like, you gotta be kidding me. The one, was it Vest or Brisky somewhere? That hit him like, the one player don't want to hurt. But no, I still think, I don't know about 3 years, 54. I'm hesitant with that third year, given his age, but I would be fine giving him 2 years, 40. I mean, unless you do a 3 year with like a mutual or some type of option for a third year, I'd be fine with that. But at this point, I feel like his price is only lowering, which only, falls more into our Scott Harris wheelhouse of bargain shopping at the Dollar Tree store. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I still like our chances. It's just a matter of whether he's going to fork the money over or not. But I fail to see any other than him and Bregman. But Bregman, a little bit different scenario, I feel like, too. If it's not any of those two guys or Bichette, I don't know what other names are worth kind of bringing in to reshape the roster, even if it's just for 1 year.
Yeah, outside of Edwin Diaz, which I think he'll go back to New York eventually. But Yeah, yeah, I mean, he hit 50 home runs last year. Like, so even though you got another high strikeout guy, you got another dangerous weapon. Like those type of bats are you can't put a value on those type of bats in the playoffs where one swing power is king. And it's whether you're a power arm or a power bat, that's what you need down the stretch. That's the reason why the Dodgers were able to will themselves to a victory. I mean, you just got too many dangerous weapons out there. You got Otani, you got Freeman, you got Mookie Betts, who's not a power guy, but he's a elite baseball player. So you got to have more you know dangerous guys out there. Um, so yeah, I mean, if the value is low on him, I don't know whether it's for his age or his defense or his you know inefficiencies down the stretch. I think it's a perfect opportunity with us having it wide open. I mean, because I think that moves. I think a move like that moves the needle right now without having to do a whole lot. You want to put your best foot forward with Scooble. Maybe this gives him some added incentive. Like, okay, went out and got a bona fide all-star that we need. Because outside of that, you bring back, you bring back Carpenter as your everyday corner outfield, and then you have a bench of either Jahmai Jones it should be solidified in, and then Vierling, and between Vierling, Meadows, and Perez, they duke it out, and that's a nice whoever wins that job. That's a nice addition off the bench. So yeah, you do that without committing to the long because you got McGonigal. You possibly have something with a Max Anderson, and then you don't commit to the amount of money that Bichette is asking for because he wants to be a shortstop or he wants to be paid like a shortstop. He had a good year, but do you want to commit to 5-6 years and what that would look like? I think Suarez is a solid short term solution in that situation. 50 home runs, inputted into the lineup. Hold on, I want to see what his projected amounts are because it seems very reasonable for a guy that was probably only second to what Cal Raleigh,
Yeah. And I think the other thing to harp on too is right-handed. It helps alleviate some of the stress off Torkelson, and maybe some of the pressure that Perez was feeling last year over the last 2-3 months that he started to struggle. But I think it checks two boxes: the power production and the fact that they're right-handed. So, but to your point too, like, hey, we go that route with Suarez or Bregman for whatever reason. Let's just say it's a third baseman. I think you could really change around the outlook the next 2 years with McGonigal, and then you kind of platoon Baez and Parker in center field with the extra security blankets that they have on the 40-man. And then you go from there with, Suarez, McGonigal, and then, if it's a 2-year deal with Suarez, then maybe McGonigal continues to work on third. And now you got Colt because Gleiber's gone, and you got some even greater flexibility and more money off the books. So, but we'll see. Let's get a little ahead of ourselves just in terms of what they're capable of doing based on what they sign. But that'd be interesting. You get Suarez on the left side with McGonigal as your opening day shortstop. Suddenly, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, bat wise, I mean, you got McGonigal who looks to be pretty good defensively, but I don't know. People I think are still. I don't know. He looked good, but we already know that Suarez is not a good defensive player, but you got a lot of offense over there. Oh, I forgot to mention McGonigal has already projected as the number 2 fantasy baseball second baseman. Now, granted, he's not going to play second base this year because Torres, unless we decide to DH him, which we could on occasion, or something. Yeah, because he's not going to play. I don't think we want Torres playing anywhere else, but yeah, he's already been projected as the number 2 fantasy second baseman above Ketel Marte, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Let me go back to this.
That's crazy. But
I thought it was like a type. I'm like, is this real? Yeah. So it's Jazz, McGonigal, Ketel Marte, Jackson Holiday, Keith Shaw, and Gleyber Torres is 10th. This
Yep.
is the source is Baseball America, so they're legit. So for me, foregone conclusion, he's got to be on the opening day roster. What it all comes down to, as far as stability, flexibility, Trey Sweeney's got to go. It just doesn't make sense on any grounds. Defensively, offensively, he's not a staple. We didn't draft him. There's no reason to instill that type of faith. The only thing that's saving him is the fact that he's playing a premium position, shortstop, but he's not even a great defensive shortstop. You got Javi, you got McKinstry. Yeah. So I think you got enough there to where there's just no reason to bring him back. And like I said, the minute we go out and sign whoever we go out and get, we go the big splash, Schwarber, Tucker. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't want to, because we'll come back to this if something like that happens and be like, hey, I did say that it was, that it could happen. I think Sweeney's the first man to go. Right now we have an opening, so that could possibly be for whatever. That could possibly be for Devin Williams or some type of relief pitcher, but yeah, eventually it's just not going to make sense to have him around. So at least we have that in our back pocket. So yeah. Oh, I didn't get a chance to talk about the projected. So right now it says Suarez is projected to receive a contract in the range of 2 to 3 years for approximately 45 to 72. Now, I guess the 45 to 72 is, I guess, maybe depending on the 2 or the 3, but 2 at 45, book that, stamp that. 3 at 72, I don't know what the math is on that. That's 15, 3 times 15 would be 45. So 3 times
18, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
18 to 19.
So that's not bad considering, okay, if we're looking at anywhere around 40 to 50 home runs, even if it's 35 to 40 home runs, you stamp that. You said, so, there's a chance that maybe he starts to decline a little bit, but even then you haven't committed yourself to a ton of AAV or a ton of years. So if you say no, we don't want to commit to that, you better be starting the year with McGonigal out the gate. I don't want to see Vierling. I don't want to see McKinstry at third to start the year. None of that. I'm willing to say, hey, we're gonna bet the house on McGonigal, and even then, sign him. He's buy out his whatever and make him the infielder of the future, because he's already projected from Baseball America as the number 2 second baseman in all of baseball, fantasy wise. So that's with the bat, that's with the glove, that's with everything. Well, no, fantasy is just off the bat. So, yeah, lock him in long term on the Colt deal, plus some. Which I don't know if he even does, if he would even consider something like that. But yeah, he's ready. He's 20 years old. I get it. He'll be 21 in the summertime, but all things suggest that he's ready. He's on the Connor Griffin trajectory, except Connor Griffin's like 6'2", 230. He's like a three sport athlete in height. This guy's a monster.
Definition of a jock.
yeah. But you know what? Okay, but we could talk about free agency more. There'll possibly be more stuff to talk about next week. I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about Skubal a little bit. You said you had a statistic or something that you wanted to put out there. Is that true? Yeah,
I mean, this guy is projected 40 to 50 AAV, and yeah, Dylan's signing was one thing, but man, Jared Goff makes over $50 million to not do a whole lot of winning, but yet he's going to get more than Skubal. That's
wait. Not do a lot of winning. What are you talking about? What do you mean not do a lot of winning?
We got one division title to show for it.
Two.
Okay.
No, 2, right?
All right, I'll put it this way.
Definitely
I'll put it
last
this
year.
way. Is school more important to the Tigers or golf more important to the Lions? For what school is projected to be extended
Golf.
versus what golf is making right now?
Golf. Your quarterback is everything. It's literally everything. It's who the wins are tied to. School pitches every 5th day. Now, granted, when all else fails, School comes in, shuts the door, and does it all. But do you still feel that way after that how the Seattle Mariners situation played out?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely needed a bat, and that's one thing we didn't really get at the deadline, in any way, shape, or help in that regard. But I'm not saying that getting Suarez would have been the end-all series clincher, but it sure as shit wouldn't have hurt in that series. So
I don't even really want to think about it, honestly, but
right, considering how much Skubal did in that series and what little, but at the time his big hits were impactful in Suarez. But at the end of the day, I go again. There's the whole other bucket of the 6th inning and not coming out under 100 pitches.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so it's like, well, this guy says he loves Detroit and blah blah blah, says all the right things. Mysteriously comes out when he probably had an extra 20, 30 pitches to give with the season on the line, the healthiest he's ever been, the most dominant he's ever been in a game that he was kicking ass in, too, mind you.
And the thing about this, like, you look in the internet and you see these trade rumors, and it's like, I want to be here. I don't know why they would trade me. And it's like, now, granted, that could be on the powers that be that pay the money. So it's kind of like, hey, if you don't offer me, that's not my problem. But it's like, you don't know why you're being traded, because we could lose you for nothing and you haven't signed on the dotted line. I can't put it all. Yeah. I can't put it all on him, but to say I don't know why I could be traded, that's a little ignorant, because it's like, bro, do you know how much value we could get for you as opposed to you leaving for nothing? Like, why?
And he can't be, and I'm not saying he is. There's no way he is less intelligent to the point where he deliberately does not know why he would be traded, considering what Harris has done the last few years from a spend standpoint. It's changed. Yeah. If your agent doesn't think you're going to get the money you think they earned or should get, then that's the logical next step is, well, you're worth a lot. You're going to get paid a lot. So, in keeping with the theme of Harrison rejuvenating the minor league system, this makes the most sense to trade him and keep that window of competitiveness, quality competitiveness, alive for the next 3 to 5 years. If you don't, what you could lose is a corner infielder, a potential new foundational center fielder, or a starter coming back that might bear fruit in 2 to 3 years. You don't know. I think case in point is the Garrett Crochet trade from Boston Chicago. You have to. They hit on all 4 of those prospects. Hell, if we get 3 and we hit on 2, and one's a corner infielder and one's an arm, I'm fine with it. But to let him go for a qualifying offer and compensatory pick back if he does walk, I feel like it's criminal and completely counterintuitive to everything they've done with all the rest of their prospects they've had.
Yeah, you got to get something. Even if it looks like he's going to make it through the winter meetings and it possibly be a deadline move, unless we're just, if we go into the deadline and we're like 70-30 or something, I don't even know what the math is. But if we're just like tearing like whatever, then yeah, you go out and you hold on to Skubal, you make one big move to push the envelope and just go all in on it and try to win a World Series. But anything outside of any borderline shakiness going into it, you just get what you can, because I think that depending on who it is and how thirsty they are to go for a World Series, you can probably still get most of what you would have got, and you will have utilized Skubal to get you to where you're at that point. So, yeah, you got to trade him at the end of the day if things are looking shaky, because you're more than likely not going to outbid everybody else when you hit the open market. There's been talks that Tyler Glasnow could be a part of a could be the focal point of an LA Dodger trade. What do you think? What are your thoughts on him? Do you think that would be a good move if they could? Because the Dodgers have so many. I mean, there's a ton of Japanese players in the market. You got Otani, you got Snell, who's locked in long term. You got a lot of you got too many starting pitchers over there. What are your thoughts about him being the focal point of a trade along with like a prospect or something like that in a swap for Skubal?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Another lefty, so you kind of don't lose that side in that regard. I think the extra prospect definitely helps, a kind of a security blanket of sorts coming back. But, if I could get a third player out of that, I think that would be most ideal for them. Last year, this time, I was thinking like 4 players in total. Now it's probably along the lines of 3 for sure at best. But that would be an interesting take. I would be interested to see who the prospect is. Again, I'm still thinking if you're getting an arm back, I would think third base, shortstop. I don't know about maybe shortstop, but third base, center field, I think are the key areas that I'm looking at in terms of position for that. But it's interesting to say the least.
With them getting a player of his caliber, a play now guy, the prospect would obviously not be as good, but you would have a little bit more security as far as impact now. He comes in, he's your new ace, and the beauty in it, he's making $30 million a year. He's not in 2028. There's a club option. 2028 there's a club option. So up until that point, you have him secured. So I mean, you probably don't need to. You probably don't. It doesn't matter about the prospect because you've kind of duplicated. Skubal's better than Glass now. I want to call him Graham Glasgow. He's better than him, and he's younger than him because Glass now is 32 years old. But once again, he's just one of 5 starters. The Tigers, we lost a lot of games that Skubal pit, or he had no decisions in a lot of those games. So 2-time Cy Young, but it's like, how much value is it? Is there on a, especially when you got Melton coming up the ranks, and you got Job coming back. You got Mize, who had the best year of his career. He was an all-star, didn't have a great second half, but I think he finished with more wins than Skubal, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's a win-win situation. You don't care as much about the prospect because you get back a similar caliber player that's a little bit older and probably not as durable at this point, because I think he missed a lot of last year, but his advance and his metrics played out very good outside of the walk rate. I think was kind of rough, and I wish I could share. I got this new device. Yeah, his extension 100. His walk rate and his chase rate are extremely low, but his metrics play out pretty good. He only had 18 starts, but he went 4-3, so that's interesting. But previous year 9-6. Let me see.
He's got quality playoff experience too between LA and Tampa before he came to the Dodgers. So he's a battle tested, been there, done that. So he'll step in and I would assume a leadership position or some type of pseudo captaincy based on his veteranship and ability to perform in the playoffs too.
Yeah, and we'll be a circa LA Tiger team because we already got Flaherty over here. We got Sweeney, we got Lorenzo. We've had some good luck with the LA Dodgers. So. Yeah, exactly. So
Flaherty back and forth to and fro.
Yeah, Flaherty. Yeah. So so we got good luck with those guys. Not so much with Tampa because they fleeced us for Isaac Paredes for Meadows' brother. So yeah. Any other closing? There should be more action by the next show, but any other thoughts as we wrap up today?
Yeah, I think the Bo Bichette going forward is probably the biggest external news piece for Tiger fans to kind of follow as he navigates that with Toronto, and obviously the news of them signing Dylan Cease and how that will change their off-season priorities going forward. But if it's not him, I think it's an arm for sure we're going to sign. I mean, I'd love to bring Finnegan back, but if we got Edwin Diaz or Devin Williams, even the guy that I had been targeting at the trade deadline, Dennis Santana of the Pirates, I think any combination of those guys would be good. Bring back for sure, or signing to bring into the fold to help stabilize the high leverage rotation. And then we'll see what happens. You know, I think there's only a couple key things and key names that we're keeping an eye on that are going to really let everything else fall into place the rest of the offseason. So we'll see what happens. Looks like he's got a staff in place. It's just a matter of Scott Harris not getting too nervous and pulling the trigger on something here to give us a little bit of jolt heading into the winter meetings.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned Pittsburgh, they're definitely a team to keep an eye on. We know that the Tigers were in talks with them. They had their eyes on Josue Briseño, which is like, okay, you're bugging, but whatever. But they are, they have a ton of pitching. We could probably get Dennis Santana for a decent amount. He's, getting up there in age, but still not up there in age, but as far as the Pirates are concerned, and he's going to be worth some money soon. So we do have some expendable bats that we could possibly, move off to, like a Malloy or a Young, or guys like that. So that's definitely on the table. And the Pirates look like they're trying to make a conscious effort to make a move this year. There was rumors that they were ready to offer, Josh Naylor, even though I don't think he really tested the market too much. I think he pretty much wanted to come back to Seattle, but there was rumor that they were ready to spend some money and spend the most money that they've ever spent since Andrew McCutchen, I think. So maybe we could extend an offer because they have been keeping an eye on our farm system anyway. So, but we'll see about that. We should have a lot more to talk about on the next show. So stay tuned, subscribe to Corner to Copa on YouTube, as well as Bleachers to Speakers. And we'll certainly, if we got to do an emergency show or give you a quick short update, stay tuned for that. And we're back, man. It was a little bit, but we back to it. So keep an eye out, click that notification bell so you get a notification as soon as something goes down. But we out of here.
Peace.
Get your lick back. If a nigga do something, ain't no chit chat. Better stay up out the way, don't get your shit splat.